let's dive into Jekyll Island. Looks like you're after something more than just your typical beach trip for this family vacation.
You picked a good one.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize Jekyll Island has this really interesting history.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, it wasn't always about family fun. It was a private retreat for, like, the wealthiest families for decades.
Exactly. Think Rockefeller, Morgan, Vanderbilt.
The whole crew.
They formed this thing called the Jekyll Island Club and basically turned the island into their own exclusive playground.
And you can still see traces of that era in the historic district today, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'll find these amazing mansions and cottages.
Each with its own unique style, showcasing that Gilded Age extravagance.
Right.
One article even pointed out that some of these villas were designed by, like, super famous architects of the time, Charles A. Platt.
Oh, yeah. Platt.
So we're not talking just random beach houses here. These were serious architectural masterpieces.
And get this, they even brought in a whole crew from Italy to do the fancy plaster work on Villa Ospo.
Wow, talk about attention to detail. Okay, enough about millionaires for a sec. Driftwood Beach caught my eye. The photos are unreal.
It's truly one of a kind. Not your typical white sand beach,
Right.
Instead, you have these giant, bleached driftwood trees scattered all over the shore. Years of wind and waves have sculpted them into these almost like otherworldly shapes.
One article even compared it to the Skeleton Coast in Namibia.
It's a pretty accurate comparison, actually. But what's really interesting is the ecological story behind it. These trees were originally part of a maritime forest.
Ah, I see.
But then erosion and rising sea levels took over.
So it's like this beautiful but kind of stark reminder of how our coastlines are always changing, the forces of nature at work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's even more powerful in person.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned sea turtles, and Jekyll Island happens to be a super important nesting ground for loggerhead.
Oh, it is. And they have this fantastic facility there, the Georgia Sea Turtle Center, all about conservation.
It's not just an aquarium, though, right?
No, it's much more than that.
Yeah.
They do a ton of work rehabilitating injured turtles.
Poor things.
Lots of them are victims of boat strikes or they get tangled up in fishing gear.
Oh, that's awful.
They have a whole team of vets and volunteers who work around the clock to nurse them back to health.
That's incredible. And then they release them back into the wild.
Exactly. It's really something to see.
Yeah.
They also have a big educational focus, teaching visitors about the threats turtles face and what we can all do to help protect them.
One article mentioned a turtle cam where you can watch live footage of nesting turtles and hatchlings.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be amazing for the kids. Okay, so we've got history, beaches, sea turtles. What other adventures await on Jekyll Island?
Well, there are guided kayak tours if you're looking to get out on the water.
Oh, fun!
They take you through the maritime forests and salt marshes. You might even spot dolphins, manatees, or all sorts of birds.
Sounds super peaceful. I also saw there are tons of bike trails all over the island.
Yeah, over 18 miles of paved trails, actually. They wind through all sorts of landscapes along the beach, through forests, even past historical sites. There's something for everyone.
So whether you're a serious cyclist or just up for a leisurely family ride, you're covered. Speaking of family fun, I spotted something called Summer Waves Water Park.
Oh yeah, Summer Waves. It's perfect for cooling off on a hot day. They've got water slides, a lazy river, even a wave pool. Guaranteed hit with the kids.
Sounds about right. And for a more chill afternoon, what about a round of croquet at the Jekyll Island Club Resort?
Now that's a fun way to connect with the island's history. You'll be playing on the same lawns where those millionaires used to hang out, enjoying their leisurely pastime.
Love it. A little glimpse into the elegant social life of that era. All right, I think all this exploring has worked up an appetite. Let's talk food.
Well, Jekyll Island has a pretty diverse culinary scene, actually. You'll find everything from casual seafood shacks to really fancy restaurants. And being a coastal destination, fresh seafood is definitely a staple.
One place that caught my eye was Tortuga Jack's, an oceanfront Mexican restaurant with live music. Margaritas and sunsets over the ocean. Yes, please.
And for a more traditional southern experience, there's the wharf.
Oh yeah, the wharf.
It's on a historic pier right in the heart of the historic district. Their menu is full of local favorites like shrimp and grits, fried green tomatoes, she crab soup.
Ooh, she crab soup. Speaking of shrimp and grits, didn't you mention Jekyll Island has a whole festival dedicated to it?
It does. The annual Shrimp and Grits Festival. It's one of the most popular events on the island. People come from all over for it.
What's it like?
You get to sample tons of shrimp and grits dishes made by local chefs, all competing for the Golden Ladle Award.
You had me at shrimp and grits, but it's not just about the food, right?
No, not at all. There's live music, arts and crafts vendors, a kids zone. It's a real celebration of Southern culture and cuisine.
I love that. And it's a great example of how Jekyll Island blends its history with modern attractions. You can experience the island's unique past while also enjoying all the contemporary fun.
Exactly. It's that perfect mix that makes it so special. Steeped in history, but still totally modern and appealing.
So, listeners, what's piqued your interest so far? Are you picturing yourself strolling through the historic district? Maybe exploring those driftwood sculptures? Or perhaps indulging in some fresh-caught seafood? Let us know what's resonating with you, and we'll tailor the rest of our deep dive to your specific interests.
You mentioned being drawn to Driftwood Beach, and I gotta say, it really is one of the most visually captivating places I've ever researched, like an open-air art gallery, but sculpted by nature, you know.
It's wild to think those driftwood trees were once part of a whole forest. Speaks to the power of erosion and how coastlines are constantly evolving.
Absolutely. And what's even more fascinating is that the type of wood actually plays a big role in how well the driftwood is preserved.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the main tree species in that forest was live oak,
Live oak, okay.
and it's known for having super dense rot-resistant wood.
So that's why those driftwood sculptures can withstand years of being exposed to the elements. It's not just any old wood that can create those formations.
Exactly. It's that combination, the live oak's toughness, plus the constant action of the wind and waves. That's what gives Driftwood Beach its unique beauty.
It must be a photographer's paradise, especially during those golden hours when the light hits just right.
Oh, absolutely. Photographers love it. And it's also become a popular spot for weddings and other special events, too.
I can see why. It's got that romantic, otherworldly vibe. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk more about the Georgia Sea Turtle Center. You mentioned they do incredible work rehabilitating injured turtles. What are some of the biggest challenges they face?
Well, one of the biggest threats to sea turtles around here is boat strikes, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Lots of turtles get injured or even killed every year from colliding with boats, especially during nesting season when they're coming ashore.
That's so sad. And I'm guessing fishing gear entanglement is another big issue.
It is, yeah. Sea turtles can get caught in fishing nets or lines, which can lead to drowning or really serious injuries. The center actually has a whole team of trained responders on call 247 to help disentangle turtles if they get trapped.
Wow, that's dedication. So what happens to the turtles once they're brought to the center?
First things first, a full medical assessment. They have this amazing hospital facility equipped to deal with all sorts of injuries, from broken flippers to shell damage.
I read that they even have a hyperbaric chamber, which is used to treat turtles with decompression sickness.
That's right. It's actually one of the few places in the Southeast that has that kind of specialized equipment.
Wow.
And once the turtles are stable, they go through rehab,
Rehab, okay.
which can involve things like physical therapy, wound care, even surgery sometimes.
And the end goal is always to release them back into the wild, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Nothing makes them happier than seeing a rehabilitated turtle swim back into the ocean. They even have a turtle release program so visitors can witness those moments.
Ah, that would be amazing to see. Okay, let's dive back into the island's history for a bit. We talked about the Jekyll Island Club and those millionaires who shaped the island. Were there any key figures who really stood out?
Well, J.P. Morgan comes to mind,
Yeah.
the famous financier.
J.P. Morgan, okay.
He was one of the original members of the Jekyll Island Club and played a huge part in developing the island's infrastructure.
I read somewhere that he even hosted this super secret meeting on Jekyll Island back in 1910, the one that led to the creation of the Federal Reserve System.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild to think that such a pivotal moment in American history happened on this seemingly quiet island.
Right. It really shows you that Jekyll Island was more than just a vacation spot for those wealthy folks. It was also where they could gather, network, and basically shape the future of the country.
Makes you wonder what went down in those grand mansions, what deals were made, what decisions were reached that impacted the course of history.
It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? And the architecture itself offers a little glimpse into how they lived. You mentioned earlier that some of those villas were designed by famous architects like Charles A. Platt.
Oh, yeah. Platt was known for his elegant classical designs. His work on Jekyll Island is really something else. He designed a bunch of notable villas there: Indian Mound, Sans Souci, Cherokee.
And each villa has its own story to tell, reflecting the personalities and lifestyles of the families who live there, like Villa Mariana, with its blend of Spanish and Italian Renaissance styles.
Oh, great, Villa Mariana.
It was built for Walter Jennings. He was a big railroad guy.
And then there's Villa Ospo, designed by Kenneth Murchison, a New York architect known for his bold colors and kind of eclectic detail.
Yeah, Murchison.
It was built for a wealthy socialite, Mrs. William Osgood Field.
It's interesting, isn't it, how all these different architectural styles just kind of coexist in the historic district.
Yeah.
Creates this really visually rich and captivating landscape.
It shows you how committed they are to preserving their architectural heritage. They've managed to keep those historic structures intact while also adapting them for modern use.
And a lot of them have been converted into museums, inns, or event spaces, so visitors can experience a little piece of that Gilded Age past.
And they've done a fantastic job balancing that historical preservation with modern amenities. You can wander through the historic district, soak in all the architecture, and then enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant in a beautifully restored mansion.
Exactly. It's that blend of old and new that makes Jekyll Island so appealing. You can really immerse yourself in the history and culture while still enjoying all the comforts of a modern vacation.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect lead-in to our next segment, where we'll dive into some specific activities and attractions that await you on Jekyll Island. From kayaking through those maritime forests to indulging in some delicious seafood, we'll cover it all. So stick around. We've explored Jekyll Island's history and natural wonders, but now let's talk about what you can actually do on this island getaway.
If you're into nature, those kayak tours through the maritime forests sound amazing. Imagine paddling through those peaceful waterways with sunlight filtering through the leaves and maybe even spotting some herons or egrets.
Or even a dolphin.
Oh yeah, maybe even a dolphin. And those forests aren't just pretty to look at. They're actually super important ecologically. They act like natural filters for the whole coastal ecosystem, protecting water quality and providing habitats for tons of species.
Kayaking through them must give you a whole new perspective on how everything on the island is connected.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd rather stay on land, there are always those 18 miles of bike trails.
You mentioned they go through all sorts of landscapes.
Yeah.
Any highlights?
Well, the Jekyll Island Causeway Trail is really popular. It gives you these incredible views of the intracoastal waterway.
Oh, nice.
You might even see bottlenose dolphins swimming right alongside you.
That would be so cool. And for a more historical bike ride, there's the Historic District Loop. It takes you past all those grand mansions and cottages we talked about.
Right. And you can even rent a Surrey bike if you want. Super fun way to explore the island as a family.
Surrey bikes now, that's a classic vacation vibe. But we can't forget about the beach itself.
Of course not. Jekyll Island has over 10 miles of pristine beaches, each one with its own personality.
Driftwood Beach obviously is a must-see for its sheer drama. But what about if you want a more classic beach experience?
Then there's Great Dunes Beach Park. They've got lifeguards, picnic shelters, even a playground for the kids.
Perfect. And you can even go horseback riding on the beach. Can you imagine galloping along the shore with the wind in your hair?
Now that sounds like an adventure.
Definitely on my list. All right, time to talk food. Always a crucial part of any vacation. You mentioned Tortuga Jack's for its oceanfront location and Mexican food.
And their live music. Local bands playing all week long. It's got a really fun atmosphere.
Sounds great. And
Uh-huh.
for a taste of Southern hospitality, the wharf on that historic pier seems like a winner. I've always wanted to try a she crab soup.
Oh, you'll love it. It's creamy and flavorful, made of blue crab meat and a touch of sherry. Classic low-country dish.
We can't forget about the Shrimp and Grits Festival either. You really sold me on that one.
It's a real foodie experience. You get to sample like over 30 different shrimp and grits dishes, each one with a unique twist. Everything from traditional recipes to some really creative variations.
And it's more than just the food itself. It's the whole vibe of the festival. The music, the crafts, the kids having fun. It really feels like a celebration of the whole community.
And it speaks to how important it is to them to keep their culinary traditions alive. Shrimp and grits isn't just a dish, it's a symbol of Southern culture.
So true. From kayaking through those maritime forests to tasting all the flavors of the Lowcountry, Jekyll Island really does offer something for everyone. It's a place where history, nature, and modern-day fun all come together.
Whether you're looking for adventure, relaxation, or a little bit of both, Jekyll Island has it. It's the kind of place where you can make lasting memories with your family and reconnect with what really matters.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you a taste of what Jekyll Island has to offer and maybe sparked some ideas for your upcoming trip. Remember, these are just a few highlights. There's so much more to discover on this charming island. So pack your bags, gather your family, and